Hello everyone, welcome to Unsettled Journey, a podcast program by Rohingya Help. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live and work. We recognize that this land has always been and will always remain the land of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, rich in their culture, identity, and heritage. မင်္ဂလာပါမဝင်းကဟပ်ရဲ့အစီအစဉ်တစ်ခုဖြစ်တဲ့မရေရာသောခရီး podcast ကနေကြိုးဆိုပါရစေ။အစီအစဉ်မစတင်ခင်မှာကျမတို့အတီးတီးနေထိုင်ပြီးအလုံးလုံးနေတဲ့ Australia ကနေမြေတွေရဲ့မူလပိုင်ရှင်တွေဖြစ်ကြတဲ့ဌာနေတိုင်းသားများအားလုံးလေးစားစွာအတိအမှတ်ပြုလိုပါတယ်။ဒီနယ်မြေကအစဉ်အဆက်ဌာနေတိုင်းသားလူမျိုးများရဲ့ပိုင်ဆိုင်မှုဝိသေသနဲ့ယဉ်ကျေးမှုတွေတည်ရှိခဲ့တဲ့နေရာဖြစ်ပြီးဆက်လက်တည်ရှိနေမှာဖြစ်ကြောင်းလည်းအတိအမှတ်ပြုလိုပါတယ်
So welcome back to the another episode of Unsettled Journey's podcast. So today we are joined by Noor Aziza, a Rohingya advocate and educator based in Sydney, who is also the co-founder of Rohingya Moyafuno Collaborative Network, RMCN. She is the recipient of the NSW Young Women of the Year Award in 2024, who also received the Global Citizen Youth Leader Award for 2024 and 2023 Stellar South Asian Women Awards in Australia for Outstanding Global Impact. In 2025, she is nominated as the Marie Claire's Women of the Year Awards under the Voice of Now category. Very impressive. She is also a member of the Indigenous Council and Global Security Council on Existential Threats in 2024. So we will talk about her journey today, surviving the genocide in Myanmar, her identity, and her effort in building social systems that honor dignity and promoting women empowerment. So very, very welcome, Noor. And finally, nice to see you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on Rohingya podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And here today we also have Momo with us, and my name is Sanmei. And as mentioned, it's a pleasure to have Noor with us today. So let's just start with a little bit of introduction. Noor, so how would you like to introduce yourself today? Give us a little bit of background introduction.
Sure. My name is Noor Aziza. I'm an Indigenous Rohingya woman from Rakhine Arkan State in Myanmar, Burma. I'm also the co-founder and co-executive director of Rohingya Moyafuno Collaborative Network, a Rohingya-led, women-led, refugee-led organization that works to center our people's voices in peace building, justice, and reconciliation.
Thank you, Noor. So for listeners to Unsettled Journey podcast who are quite new to Rohingya history, what is one thing that you wish everyone in Australia to understand first?
Sure. The Rohingya genocide did not end in 2017, and neither did it start in 2017. It continues until today, and we've faced 84 years of ongoing violence, persecution, and displacement. It began decades earlier through laws, policies, the erasure of our citizenship, restrictive movements in our own ancestral homeland, denial of our name, people denying to call us by our name, the Rohingya. Today we are the largest stateless population in the entire world, and more than 90% of Rohingya are outside of our ancestral homeland, and we've had to flee because of the ongoing genocide in Myanmar.
It's really important to acknowledge the previous the history and the ongoing difficulties and challenges that the community is facing. So that's really important. Thank you so much for highlighting that, Noor. So just before we go into other parts of the questions, just reflecting on your upbringing and your community, is there a word or a phrase in Rohingya language that you would like us to learn and use correctly moving forward?
The word Rohingya itself is a word that I absolutely love because it's the name of our people. We were the people of Rohang and we became the people of Rohingya. But a particular word that I'd love everyone to know is Maya Whainor. Maya Whainor means women in our language. We chose it intentionally because the military has not only tried to destroy our people through killings and violence, they've also tried to erase our culture, our language, our identity, and our very existence. So naming our organization in Rohingya is really an act of resistance against that erasure.
That's true. I think a lot of people in Myanmar before the military coup, they rejected the word Rohingya itself, and it's indirectly contributing the ongoing genocide and ethnic cleansing. So I think it's really important to acknowledge the words itself. And I really love how you explain about Maya Whainor as well. We are actually going to ask what it means. And thanks for highlighting that. Mohinga Hub and Unsettled Journey podcast, it's actually highlighting each and everyone unique stories. As a refugee and asylum seeker, we usually requested our guests to share their journey from our homeland to Australia. So today, which part of your journey are you comfortable to sharing with us?
Yeah, I was born a stateless person in the 90s when there were waves of violence against the Rohingya. My mother carried 5 of her children across Southeast Asia, looking for a better life for her children, not carrying anything, because all she wanted to rescue were her children. So we made that extremely perilous journey that many Rohingya families make till today, and we ended up on a very small island in Malaysia called Borneo, and I lived there as a stateless Rohingya refugee for the first 8 years and a half of my life. And I spent my childhood hiding, moving, surviving. We lived in fear, but held on to hope when we could. And when we arrived in Australia, it wasn't the end of the struggle. It was the beginning of rebuilding. I realized I had the knowledge by then to understand the complexity of what our people are going through, given that I survived the genocide. And I felt a sense of responsibility for my people. So safety didn't erase that trauma. I learned that displacement, it's not just about losing your home, but it's about losing who you are, your identity, and constantly having to explain your existence to everyone, whether it be people in Malaysia, whether it be people in Myanmar, but you are constantly explaining who you are and who the Rohingya are.
That really resonates with me a little bit, because when we talk about trauma and identity and having, displaced in another country, where you said about like you are in a safe place, but you still have to be reminded of the ongoing atrocities, as well as explaining about your identity to not just to the other communities, but also people back in your home country. So yeah, that really is heavy. Yeah. So you talked a little bit about trauma and carrying sense of identity. So through the stories that we are bringing under Mohinga Hub, a lot of refugees and asylum seekers and survivors, they carry, like you said, multifaceted trauma. So what does healing look like for you? What are some of the practices that help you stay grounded, while you're, leading these advocacy works? Anything that in your kind of daily life kind of thing. Yeah.
There are a few things that I do to heal, I guess. I think the biggest thing is storytelling. It's saying our names, telling our truths in a world where that keeps trying to erase us. And it's not just in Myanmar, it's also in Southeast Asia where many Rohingya are displaced. I find healing in speaking the Rohingya language, cooking Rohingya food, being around Rohingya women, sitting together and being with my community in the camp and making sure that they know that they are not forgotten. Advocacy can be very, very heavy, but I stay grounded by my community, by seeing young Rohingya women in my organisation step up into leadership, and also reminding myself that our resilience is itself is an act of resistance against the military junta.
Yeah, meaningful. So I really love seeing all of your powerhouse women in your Facebook page and Instagram page. It's really really lovely to see. Yeah.
They're very cheeky. I'm like their mother.
Over to you, Momo.
Yeah, I just want to go back a little bit about your journey. So during the displacement, there must be a lot of challenges and difficulties, or even a memorable moment that you experienced. Is there any thing that you would like to share? Maybe a story that the media or people do not usually talk about, missing that point. It can be a happy memory or an experience that you would like to share with the listeners.
Sure. When I was displaced, we relied a lot on people. People were the ones that allowed us to live, allowed us to eat, allowed us to drink some water. And there were very kind people along the way. Some of the host communities, some are exiled Indigenous Filipinos in Sabah, Malaysia. And there was one particular woman, she was an old lady. She was also an exiled person, Indigenous Sulug person from the Philippines. And she was constantly hiding in the jungles of Borneo, afraid of being detained by the police. My mum made friends with her and she was my hiding spot because we all had different hiding spots. When we heard that the police would come and raid different households, my mother would send us off to our hiding spot. So this lady had absolutely nothing. She was very poor, just like us. No money, no food. She had her own family. But I hid with her in the jungles for months at times. And she always made sure that I had food to eat, I had water to drink, and she was the kindest person in the world. And when I left Malaysia to resettle in Australia, I didn't even know her name because in the culture you don't call the elders by their name. I called her Nenek. Nenek means grandmother in Malay language.
Wow.
And I realised as I got older in Australia, when I was at university, I had a bit of money, I started working a casual job. I realised I wanted to go back to find her and thank her for essentially saving my life. But I had no idea how I would find her because I didn't know her name. So I went back to Sabah in 2017 and I walked around for a couple of days. It's a very rural town. I was so tired. I was at a night market and a lady noticed me and she asked me, "Are you that Pakistani family that used to live here?" And then I just said yes, because we used to say we were anything but Rohingya because we were so scared. She said, "Oh, there was this old lady that used to look after you. I remember her. She's still in the jungle. She's still hiding." I said, "Can you make contact with her? I'd love to see her." So she arranged for that. She said, "The next day, please meet her in the abandoned building that you and your family used to hide in." And I said, "Okay, no worries." So I couldn't sleep that night and I realised, I might just be getting robbed. I think I've just been set up. But I still took the risk and I went to the abandoned building and there she was, the same Nenek with the grey hair, And she thought I was my elder sister because my sister is much older. She called me by her name, Yasmin. And I said, no, I'm Noor Aziza. And she was in complete tears. I thanked her. We took some photos. And yeah, that was a moment where I realized that you don't need anything to stand up for someone.
Wow. Very
That's
powerful.
beautiful.
Yeah. That must be so heartwarming to see her again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you are having a really difficult time, it's not person with a lot of entitlements and a lot of resources that will help you. Sometimes it's just a small help, and what I want to say is even a person who do not have a lot of resources, they have a good heart and they can help you out of it, and you will never forget about them at all. So it's so beautiful. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you for letting me share.
Absolutely. Shall I go to the next session?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so this one is about your work with the RMCN. So yeah, you've explained that Maya Forno means women. So we wanted to ask that, but you've already covered that. So it's very, very meaningful to you and deeply personal. So we want to talk a little bit about gender, women's rights, and community leadership. So what are some of the specific risks that are the most important to address that Rohingya women and girls are facing these days that we probably are not addressing publicly?
2017, the military raped more than 25,000 Rohingya women. And now the Arakan army are also raping Rohingya women. And we've collected testimonies in the last year and a half of women being raped by the Arakan army. There was one woman, she told us that she was raped by one of the members of the Arakan army. And then after that, they shot her husband in front of her and she fled to Bangladesh. More than 80% of the sea arrivals in Malaysia and Indonesia are women and children. And these women that are making this life-threatening journey across the Andaman Sea are also facing gender-based violence on the boat by human traffickers from Asia. 6 Rohingya women last year were raped on the boat by the same human trafficker, an Indonesian human trafficker. They arrived in Aceh, Indonesia pregnant, and they've given birth this year from rape, because in Indonesia they do not have access to abortion. We were the first organisation to step up and provide care for our women. Now they carry the children from trauma. So these two issues are very much overlapped, and many who have survived rape as a weapon of war are silenced by shame or fear. And the reason why the military and Arakan army are also raping Rohingya women in Arakan state is because they know they can get away with it. Rohingya are stateless. When you are stateless, you cannot access legal support. So it's a way to torture our women, but to also control us. Rohingya women that have faced the rape as well as rape, we've seen that the military have shoved knives up their vaginas to destroy the uterus so they don't create any more Rohingya children. And that's just one of many cases, and we've seen that occur. So it's truly a way for Rohingya to never exist, and that's just a form of torture. Rohingya cannot marry outside of the ethnic group without permission from the state. And that's another way to control how many Rohingya children are going to be born.
Wow, I need a minute to kind of recover from. Yeah. It's really, really heavy. And Noor, I really applaud you for working on behalf of these women and just elevating their voices.
I'm sure like it's all in other conflict affected setting as well. Like women are the major group that has been affected by gender-based violence, especially conflict-related sexual violence. The military and the arms group, they use gender-based violence as a tool to, get each other. And especially in current situation in Myanmar, a lot of people, like many people, many women, survivors and victims from this gender-based violence and sexual violence, they couldn't get access to proper legal support and services. And it could be even more inhumane, intersectional challenges for women from Rohingya community because of the discrimination. As you said, I have never known about how they try to do this control over giving birth. And I know that it's very uneasy for Rohingya women to get access to healthcare when it comes to women health. But this is like another level, and thanks for sharing this story, Noor, because only when we hear what's happened to the woman, to the Rohingya woman, we can prevent such atrocities from happening again. My follow-up question is, what kind of services Rohingya Myofine Collaborative Network can provide to these services, and how community organization like us can elevate the voices of Rohingya women?
Unfortunately, some of the progressive movements in Myanmar are very much allergic to the word Rohingya. They claim that Rohingya women are lying about rape. Aung San Suu Kyi's office herself posted on their Facebook saying that Rohingya women are lying about rape. I'm not sure why Rohingya women would ever lie about rape, but we have testimonies, more than hundreds of testimonies from Rohingya women, and more than 1,000 Rohingya women also gave birth from rape. So what we can try and do to work together is the truth-telling process. Essentially, we want to go back home to ancestral homeland. We lived together with Rakhine ethnic group very much in peace. And unfortunately, there are bad actors at play that want to cause the divide, which they have caused. And right now, what we need is a truth-telling process and a reckoning process. And you've probably met people from Myanmar that don't stand with the Rohingya yourself. People that say Rohingya are not from Myanmar, they're Bengalis, they're black skin, they're cockroaches. Hate speech has been used as a weapon against Rohingya for a very long time by many bad actors in Myanmar. Mabata, the extremist Buddhist group, they go around Buddhist schools in Myanmar and tell Buddhist children that Rohingya people like to buy cows and slaughter cows because they're practicing to kill Buddhist people. This is the brainwashing that starts from a very young age, which instills that very hate that we see today, even in progressive groups. So I would love to work together to combat this, because we can't do it alone. We, Rohingya community, we need the help, all our brothers and sisters from Myanmar, because the freedom of Myanmar will only ever exist if Rohingya genocide is recognized and the truth of what happened to the Rohingya is told.
I totally agree. Like when yes, we are fighting for the justice and freedom right now, and unless everybody existing and living in the land of Myanmar get access to freedom and human rights, nobody is actually free. If there is one single case of human rights violation, everybody's rights got violated. So I couldn't agree more with you, Noor.
Thank you so much both for this discussion, and I think that the truth-telling piece is really, really, really important. And the way you're doing it through the storytelling is also very critical to this piece. And also, we were talking about justice and accountability, and these things. We hope that as Mohinga Hub, we can raise awareness around these issues and also be a part of this journey to tackle these issues together. So there's a lot of dynamics involved, like the negative social norms and all of these discrimination, oppression, and brainwashing and hate speech, and all of it. Yeah, we need to kind of work together, like you said, and to tackle these issues.